The stench reader. I remember the moment it all fell apart, as if it were yesterday. I stood in the dimly lit conference room, my heart pounding like a war drum against my ribcage. A stillness hung in the air, thick and suffocating. My colleagues, once allies, now wore masks of disdain. The accusation had come like a thunderclap. I was a fraud, a disgraced environmentalist who had falsified air quality data for a small town plagued with mysterious deaths. When the board announced my termination, the laughter erupted. My family had always said I was chasing ghosts, and now the world had confirmed it. "You'll disgrace us," my father had warned, his voice a low growl, as if I were a blight on our family name. "Get your head out of the clouds and stop believing in fairy tales." But I was no longer a child, clinging to whimsical stories. I was a scientist, and I would prove them wrong. I turned to miasmatic forensics, a field so obscure it might as well have been sorcery. I immersed myself in the world of supernatural scent analysis, investigating the olfactory signatures left by disasters long before they struck. For years, I toiled in the shadows, my name a whispered mockery among those who once stood beside me. But as I delved deeper, as I inhaled the stench of decay and death that hung like a shroud in the air, my obsession became a part of me. I began to notice what others couldn't, to feel the dread that seeped into the very fabric of the world. Then, one day, it happened. I was called to an isolated town where the air had begun to rot. The townsfolk were desperate, their pleas echoing in my ears. "You're the only one who can help us," they said. "You can smell what we cannot." I arrived to find the place steeped in an acrid odor, the kind of stench that clings to your skin like a curse. I worked tirelessly, and in the depths of my investigation, I uncovered something unspeakable, a rift between our world and something darker, a festering wound in the earth itself that had begun to seep into the air. The very miasma that I had studied, what my family had called delusions, was a warning. I was a prophet in a world blind to the truth. Years passed, and I became renowned, an expert in a field that once mocked me. I transformed from a disgrace into a voice of warning. But despite my success, I longed for acceptance. "Look who's back," my sister scoffed, folding her arms. "The crazy one!" My father stood at the edge of the living room, his eyes narrowing. "You should have listened to us," he said. "You've wasted your life chasing shadows." I swallowed hard, the weight of their scorn pressing down on me. "You don't understand," I replied, my voice trembling. "I've learned things about the air, about what's coming." "More fairy tales?" my mother chimed in, her laughter ringing hollow. But I wasn't here to plead for acceptance. I was here to show them the truth. As I began to explain the phenomenon I had uncovered, the air grew thick with tension. My words hung heavy, like the miasma I had studied. They could sense something was wrong, but they dismissed it as just another of my obsessions. That's when it happened. The lights flickered, and a chill swept through the room. The stench intensified, coiling around us like a serpent. My family's laughter faded, replaced by a creeping dread that crawled beneath their skin. "Do you smell that?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Their faces turned pale as they finally recognized the odor. The scent of decay, the sweet rot of something long dead. It permeated the air, and in that moment, I saw the realization dawn in their eyes. "What have you done?" my father gasped, stepping back as if the air itself had become a predator. "I didn't do this," I replied, shaking. "But you've ignored it for too long. This is what I've been warning you about." As the stench deepened, I could feel the room shift, the walls closing in. Shadows twisted and writhed, taking form. My family backed against the wall, their faces a mask of horror. They were witnessing the very essence of what they had mocked, a manifestation of their disbelief. The air crackled with energy, and I felt the weight of it pressing down on my shoulders. "You never believed me," I said, my voice steady now. "But I've survived the darkness. I faced it, and now it's here." With a deafening roar, the shadows coalesced, revealing twisted figures that writhed in agony. My family screamed, their voices echoing in the darkened room. It was a reckoning, a moment of poetic justice. As the shadows engulfed them, I felt a pang of sorrow. They were my family, yet they had forced my hand. I had achieved what they deemed impossible. But at what cost? I watched as they faced the horrors they had dismissed, the weight of their disbelief crashing down around them. As the darkness receded, I stood alone in the room, the stench lingering like a ghost. I had returned home, but I was no longer the child they had scorned. I was a survivor, a witness to the horrors that lay hidden in the world. The door creaked open, and I stepped outside, the cool air washing over me. I was free. Yet I carried the burden of what I had seen. I had faced the darkness, and it had transformed me. In my heart, I knew the truth. Sometimes, the greatest horrors are the ones we refuse to believe.